joined us. Welcome, Jamie. I'm
Hi,
going.
hi.
I'm going to. You made it just in time. I'm going to commence with what I've prepared for you guys today. I've prepared a session with regards to the isolated D pawn. I do see the pawn in mention was the advertisement was the D5 pawn, but very interesting. It can be from both sides, either the D5 pawn or the D pawn. It's just the D pawn in general. And I'm going to share my screen um, just to show you guys more or less what I'm speaking of. And it's this pawn over here, which is isolated. This one is the D4 pawn, but it can be many ways. It can be the black side as well. And having the isolated pawn has its benefits and it has its sort of drawbacks. Uh, I personally do enjoy playing with the isolated pawn as it gives a nice and active game. But in the end game, it can count against you. And those are the aspects we're going to be looking at today. So yes, let's get into it. So first things first, I want to show everybody more or less how often this can happen. Um, from the white side, it can arise from various openings. It can arise from the Sicilian, and this one in particular, I played this line where I play c3, and the opponent plays d5, capture, capture, and d4. And of course, it can arise both ways. This way it can be for black. If he captures, c takes d, white can play knight takes d, and once again you have the isolated pawn on d5. And it can also happen in a different manner where if he doesn't capture, let's say he just plays knight f6, we can check, takes, castle, bishop e7, and we can capture later, and can also happen in that way. So yes, that's one way how that can occur from the Sicilian. And of course, another variation of the Caro-Kann, it can occur, c4. And to be honest, I actually employ this, and I've studied this isoline position, which is also known as quite intensively. Um, if black plays queen takes d5, we've got the same scenario where we can play d4 for even first knight out, and then d4. We'll play with this isolated pawn. Yeah, of course, with white you got the extra tempo, and it helps to have that when you have the initiative. So the white is nice and easy to play. We're gonna have a look at it from black side as well. Um, so yes, those are two options. I'm going to have a look at another option and in the French also. Um, sorry, French is yeah, and the exchange variation of the French. Here both sides can opt for it. White can go c4. That's what the situation we just saw. And I played bishop d3. Black can go c5. And once again, in fact, a lot of the times we tend to hold back on this exchange because we wait for this bishop to develop, and when it does develop, then we capture. Then the bishop sort of has to move again, so we don't make it too comfortable for our opponent to just develop with tempo like that. So perhaps if he does go there, I'll first go here. And if he does, okay, won't bring the bishop, maybe bring the knight out first. Go castle. Now he brings the bishop. Now I would capture, and if it captures back, then that possibility arises over there. So yeah, I'll keep that in the back pocket there to capture. I will capture immediately. And of course, black does have this move over here. Let's say after we bring out this, instead of capturing, we bring out this. Black does have this move, which is not a great move in this situation. If he does try to push past, we can drop back, and let's say black develops his knight. I'm curious to see from Rowan and Jamie, Rowan and Jamie. Perhaps how would you guys punish black for the c4 move that he's made? Well, it looks like he's gaining space on the queen side, but actually he's made a positional error by doing that. Let's see if you guys can quickly just spot this. Anyone anyone of you guys participants are welcome to give a suggestion here for white.
I'd presume we want to go b3 here and undermine it.
Yes, b3, and let's say it goes b5.
And then a4.
Very nice idea there with a4. And if he does decide to capture on a4,
then
nice way to, yes?
Then we capture on c4.
Nice way to destroy structures, capture on c4, and all of a sudden his pawns are definitely not looking great, in great shape here. So yes, it's very important to know this little idea to undermine the pawns over there. If he does go for that, I mean, not too far off the topic with the d5 or the d4 isolani pawn, because usually it stems from situations like this, and the only way you could possibly try to avoid it is to try and push past, because if the captures take place, there will be the isolani structure. I don't think b6 is really on the cards in these situations. It's just going to weaken the light squares too much over there, and don't want to make too many pawn moves in these situations when black has not developed a single piece. All right, so yes, they can arise from many different openings. The one we're going to be looking at today is actually from a d4 opening, very nicely. So that was from 3 e4 openings against both or what was the French, it was the Caracan, and it was the Sicilian. And yeah, so those are 3 openings already. The 4th one would be d4. Let's have a look at d4. Yes, there are many different other ways they can occur, of course. Some unorthodox openings, you can also run into the isolani structure. Yes, but the one we're going to look at today is from a game played between Vladimir Kramnik and Anand, Dortmund Super GM Tournament 2001. Very interesting game, very, very instructive, lots of calculation, very enjoyable as well. So yeah, let's dive right in. So yeah, d4, like we said, d5, c4, d takes c, f3, e6, e3, knight f6, bishop takes c4, c5, castle, a6, and prophylactic move here by white. He drops the bishop back, doesn't want to run into b5 and c4, which could be quite uncomfortable for that bishop, so he drops the bishop back. C takes d4 and e takes d4. Here the situation arises where we get the isolated d pawn. Okay. So yeah, we once again have to look at the characteristics of this d pawn. We know it can happen from both sides. Black can have the isolated pawn, or white can have the isolated pawn. The main thing that you need to keep in mind when the isolated pawn occurs, there's a few characteristics that we need to know about this situation. So the main characteristic is white wants to push this guy. He wants to push this pawn. It's not going to be easy. Black does have a lot of protection on that square at this stage. So it's not easy. Black actually can utilize that d5 square as a stronghold for his knights. So it's not quite that simple to push the pawn, but this is white's intention. He wants to get that pawn within. In many situations, when white does push it, his pieces will be nicely placed for attack, and that's the main reason why I like this for white, is because white does have a lot of space, does have the center, and he can maneuver his pieces around. Control of the e5 square is nice. The rook's gonna come here, the other rook can come here, and yeah, just a lot of activity that he has on his side as white, and having the isolated pawn. Of course, the isolated pawn can be a weakness, and it will count against him in the endgame. So exchanging pieces is not on top of the list of things to do for the one holding the isolated pawn, because in the end game your weaknesses do stand out more, because if we can, especially in this case, especially we do not want to exchange minor pieces, because they will be needed to show the activity. So if we're going to exchange minor pieces, it's not going to be simple. All black is going to do is going to pile up on this pawn and with his rooks, and that's going to be kind of difficult for us without the minor pieces. So the one holding the isolated pawn does not want to exchange minor pieces, as the end game is going to be difficult for him. Also, like I said earlier, this is going to be a nice stronghold for black. He's going to want to utilize the d5 square, especially with the knight, as the knight is a very, very good blockader over there. Right, so main characteristics, I would say, 2 for white. He wants to push the pawn, and he needs to focus on activity and not exchanging too much minor pieces. He wants to keep the initiative flowing. With black wants to exchange the pieces, and also wants to prevent this, and also utilize the d5 square as a stronghold for his knight. So yes, black wants to exchange. And also another important factor is this bishop can always drop back here. I've seen it happen in many ways. Sometimes a3, pawn to a3, and the bishop maneuvers back, the rook gets out, the bishop tucks in on b1. So the bishop likes to utilize both these diagonals, especially the one leading to the king over there, as a useful way to attack. Also, another nice thing about white is possible rook lifts are very, very possible here, very useful in these situations. So yes, also nice attacking possibilities for white. So yes, both sides have to focus on those. Black, on the other hand, just wants to keep things together. And if he holds it together and manages to push to the end game, he does have some ideas as well of entering with these pieces, which we will be looking at. But yeah, if Black makes it to the end game, generally, he should be fine. So yes, I am one that would advocate for the Isolani to play it, because you can put your opponent and pose lots of problems for your opponent. And generally, opponents do tend to make mistakes under pressure, various types of pressures, time pressure or tournament situation pressure. There are different types of things you can use, but the chances that your opponent will find the 100% perfect move all the time is quite difficult. So it's not like you're pawn down. I mean, you could survive an end game, but you would definitely be on the back foot with the isolated pawn. So try not to exchange too much in this situation. Okay, so let's see how many of those characteristics pops up in the game. Trust I've covered all of them. If any pops up along the way, I'll be sure to make mention of it. Okay, so knight c6, knight c3. Well, of course, now basic development takes place. Both sides feeling their way through the opening still. Bishop g5, castle, queen d2, and knight a5. Okay, this is our first interesting situation. The knight is asking some questions over here to the bishop. The bishop obviously doesn't want to submit to the knight, but if he does go bishop c2, the knight does have the nice c4 square, and it does attack the b2 pawn as well. My question is that any reason to be concerned? Do we need to be concerned about that knight coming in? Because this is a general idea for black. Is a nice idea. Can do this, supported by the pawn. Quite a nice outpost that we can have over there. Do we have to be concerned about this? Do we go bishop c2, bishop? Are we going to give up the bishop? Because the knight to c4 does double attack the queen and the pawn and b2 in some instances.
I'd at least try and keep the bishop.
So yes, if you try to keep the bishop, probably bishop c2, I'm assuming.
It will make sense. Bishop a4, you'll just play b5, and you'd have to drop it back to c2 anyway.
How would you respond to knight b5? Knight c4. Sorry.
I was thinking either queen e2 or.
Okay, queen e2, and then what if he grabs the pawn?
Just rook to b1. Isn't the knight trapped?
Rook to b1. I'll send in somebody to come and save him. So you can still manage to get that knight.
Instead of rook to b1, could I go bishop b3?
Bishop b3 and he's kind of
Instead of rook b1, like pull back to rook b1.
instead of rook b1, you want to go bishop b3 immediately.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, he's out of squares at this current stages. definitely out of square. So nice one, nice spot. Okay, so nothing to be alarmed about. One question I do have, what if he plays b5? So now he reinforces that knight on that nice square. I mean, this does look promising for black.
Well, as White's idea, aren't you planning on trying to attack on the queen side? So the knight being on the king side. I mean, you're trying to attack on the king side, so having the knight on the queen side shouldn't be too scary.
Yes, this we definitely want to attack on the king side, and if he tries to play b5 here, he kind of walks right into it. Can you see? Can you see why b5 would be actually a fatal blunder in the situation?
Wouldn't it be bishop takes f6 and then queen e4?
That's right, because he has opened up his
yeah,
rook.
You're hitting the rook and threatening mate.
That's correct. Well spotted. Well spotted. So yes, just some basic, nice tactical nuances here, which can occur from black launching any type of strategical attempt too quickly. Like we said, white's pieces are exceptionally active, and his queen. I think I mentioned in one of my other sessions as well. The queen acts as the spine of the game, in full control here of this situation. Queen showing the might. All right, so black did not opt for knight c4 immediately, but instead played b5 first, preparing it, which makes sense. Queen f4, nice move there, with the same motive that we just looked at. Bishop takes f6, and then queen e4 to follow, threatening the rook and the mate. And then black plays a nice prophylactic move, getting the rook to a7. And in this situation, he can also swing it across like this, which is nice, to swing that rook across, to double up on that d5 immediately. White has an easy task just to activate all his pieces. Very easy for white to play. As you can see, black is already having to think of ingenious moves like rook a7, whereas white just plays, normal improving moves, bringing the queen in, bringing the rook in, developing the pieces. It's quite nice to play as white. Bishop to b7. I think black was feeling the pressure because he wanted to create more defense over here, because so black reinforces that square. And yes, this was definitely a top flight game by the next idea that white played. White said, I'm going to play there anyway. I'm going to play there anyway. Now, if you do basic maths here, you'll see that there is 1, 2 defenders, and we'll theoretically this should not work out. This definitely should not work out for white. I suppose here in the situation, one important factor is that this knight is also misplaced at this stage, as well as this rook is misplaced. Generally, when you see your opponent's pieces are not coordinating well, and they sort of like not well placed or hanging in certain instances. Yeah, those pieces, both the rook is hanging, the knight's not hanging, but he is very badly placed. So in situations like this, generally you want to open up and spark some tactics, because this is when they usually happen. So the move d5 was played in the situation. Let's just take a moment and let this sink in, because it's not the ordinary move to play. Let's see what was white thinking. Black was trying to prevent this at all costs, but white said, I'm pushing. Doesn't matter what you do, I'm pushing. All right, how should black recapture? He's got 3 possible ways: knight, pawn, and bishop. Queen doesn't count, of course. You can leave the queen, you capture queen take. Okay, so I'll give you guys a minute just to think about this. How should black recapture? Or if he should recapture, in any case, should he take, or should he just leave it? Surely he should take. Okay, so I'm going to take some suggestions from everybody. How should black recapture? Whenever you're ready, you can either send them a message in the chat, or feel free to suggest your move. But I'd like
I think I'd capture with the knight. Knight takes b5.
Right, so we have one knight takes. We will analyze that in a moment, Brown. Any other suggestions, or everybody going with a knight? Give another few seconds just to see anybody else brave enough to suggest a response for black. Or is white just crazy to give away the pawn? Well, it was Kramnik after all.
The night capsules look like the less risky thing for me.
Yes, no, generally we want to always go into the knight, because we want to save the bishop.
Yeah, I'm not exactly sure what we should recapture. Yeah, I'm very scared of some queen h4 at some well-timed moment attacking e7 and h7. But I'm not quite able to calculate properly what we should take with. I think we might be forced to take with the pawn, but that doesn't look fun.
Maybe we take with the bishop instead. I don't know.
Jamie says bishop. Rowan and Burton suggesting the knight. Michael thinking of the pawn, but and knight takes also. Bishop takes. So yes, we got a little bit of everything here. Okay, so let's dive into this calculation because this is the fun part. This is the fun part of this game. This is why this game is so special as well to me. In the situation, let's look at the knight takes first. So knight takes, yes. So Michael was right when he did say knight takes didn't look fun because there's some stuff happening here and here that can possibly link up. So the immediate queen to h4 does look scary because you are hitting the mate, right, along with the bishop, and you are threatening this, and this guy is not the best guy in the world because as a defender because he is pinned. So these type of tactical ideas that Michael saw, of course, in a serious game, you'd think about 10 minutes in the situation, probably how to recapture if the knight is right or wrong, or the pawn is right or wrong, the bishop is right or wrong. Well, the knight, if you do see some tactical motives and it doesn't feel right, you should generally investigate more because you don't want to be caught off guard with any funny tactics. And in this situation, bishop takes h7 is quite potent. Sort of like almost like a Greek gift setup. Bishop takes, luring the king out. King captures, and the queen h4 move does look menacing. I don't think he wants to come out. I don't think he wants to come out to g6. It's a bit too risky. He does try to come out to g6. There's too many mating motives after white plays g4. With the queen going to h5 as the main threat, as well as the knight going over there. Also mate. If he thinks he can get away with trying this, he's mistaken because we'll first check and then mate. So the king definitely does not want to come out. So the king would stay back and let's just take a moment here. Think of how should white continue? Because white has sacrificed now a full piece. So he needs to emerge with something after that.
Wouldn't it just be bishop takes e7 then knight g5?
Bishop takes. Let's have a look. What do you place? Queen takes.
Then knight g5.
Knight to g5. Only problem with that is I think you're gonna have some difficulty when he drops back his knight.
Oh, drop back the knight.
Yeah, I think he's safe. Yeah, he seems safe. You see, this knight, very unsuspecting defensive move to come back with the knight. So we have to act quick while he's gone, because if he comes back, I know, usually we can try and throw in another piece to attack him, but now this bishop is there to cover that. Otherwise, that would have been great if we had that knight to e4. Some cases we can even go knight to g5, attacking the queen and the knight. Nice tactical motive, and then force the mate to go in the queen. So yeah, no, I think that was just maybe the reason why I didn't go for that. But there is a different tactical solution instead of bishop takes e7 in the situation.
Would be rook takes d5. Same idea.
Rook takes, eliminate the problem. The problem was the knight that was always wanting to come back, so we just eliminate him. And obviously the knight is the defender of the e7 bishop, and now, yeah, black's gonna decide what does he want to do now. So he tries to take back. Very, very interestingly enough, that rook on a7 emerges as a useful defense on e7, but now your idea, Rawan, comes through quite successfully, because that knight is not there anymore. And it's going to be forced mate. So he is forced to sacrifice the queen. And then we did give up a lot, and he did get some substantial material. But if we do a quick material count here, we'll see that rook knight for rook knight and queen for rook bishop, equal pawns. That means it is white point up, exactly a queen versus a rook and a bishop, and it's just a matter of time and a just precise technique. Then I think white will emerge victorious here. Okay, so let's just rewind a little bit into what happened there. So that was the knight taking on d5. Bishop takes. Oh, you can go queen h4 also immediately, but just a clear-cut way of doing things is, I like to always think of checks, captures, and threats first. So check over there, bring the king out, less complications, less options for your opponent. I don't think he wants to go to h8. That would just lead to queen h4 with more devastation. So he has to take check. We looked at king coming out to g6. Not good, so it goes back there. Then after rook takes, how much options does black really have here? I mean, I don't think there's anything better than bishop takes, because we are going to take back there. He can't take queen takes, pawn takes. This leads to bishop takes, and we will win that one. In fact, what we will do is you might even consider just going for the mate after bishop takes, and then knight into g. But yes, overwhelming situation. So he has to take. That's nice maneuver. Go up. Right. So let's rewind a bit. So I just want confirmation that everybody is happy that after that analysis, knight takes is going to bring some trouble. So I hope that explains that a little more, Burton and Rowan. Okay, everybody happy? I'll continue. We're going to.
Yeah, that's perfect.
Okay, great. We will now look at the pawn takes, and this is an interesting one. This is very, very interesting. The reason why it's interesting is because now black has the isolated pawn. Black has the isolated D pawn over here. And the situation is a little different though. I've actually played a game like this. I actually played a Grunfeld game where my opponent sacked the D pawn, I ended up with a D pawn, and it is exceptionally difficult to play. Exceptionally difficult, because that D pawn actually now becomes a bit of a it hampers the position actually for black, because his pieces are not coordinated. None of his pieces are really looking good. All of his pieces are defensive, and all of white's pieces are looking quite attacking. And like I said, yeah, this can become a weakness, and it becomes very apparent in these type of situations. I do believe the fact that there's no pawn on e3 also plays a nice role for white to actually also utilize that file as well. So the compensation here that white gets is amazing for that pawn, especially with the bishop here. Struggle to move that bishop. It's very, very difficult to play in this situation, and especially since white had the isolani for so long, and he, like I said, if he does push and things do go, the action does happen, exchanges do take place, I did mention that white will emerge much more active, as is the case here. So pushing that pawn now, even if we lose the pawn, we end up in a situation where he does have the pawn standing over there. That pawn never lasts. That pawn never lasts. Even in the end game, that pawn will be super weak. I've seen a game between Kasparov and Judith Polgar, which went down this way. And one Kasparov just managed to easily draw that game by getting the pawn back later, only later, much later in the end game. So yes, this is not fun for black, like Michael said. I do agree. I know I've experienced it while playing in the South African online qualifier championships. So I think my opponent was Roberto de Abreu, quite a, I believe he's a FIDE master, quite a strong 2200 over there. Yeah, very interesting game that. Yeah, so after pawn takes, well, white, like I said, white just continues with his plan. He doesn't need to even bother about taking that pawn or planning to take the pawn. That pawn is more of a hindrance for black's position. And this is a very useful, very, very useful strategic plan, which white is using. So what's he going to do? He can go h6, he can go g6. What's he going to do? Because we are threatening to checkmate him after taking here and then taking there. We saw that plan a little earlier. It's popping up again. So some of the mating pattern over there. Yeah, so what is black's best defensive? h6, g6. Is he going to make it out alive after either? Are there any other defensive motives for black? Okay, so let's investigate. I mean, white is comfortable, and I can comfortably say g6, h6 is both not going to end well. Either way, he's going to weaken his king structure, and things are going to end in pretty bad. So let's first look at, of course, h6. Now, if he plays h6, it's not very difficult to see. White's next move, bishop takes h6. Captures, and yes, we're still going to be a little work to catch the king. completely, but I did mention that that rook left is quite nice and easy to execute that rook left in many situations. Since it's such a nice and open game. And you know what's the problem is? The problem is that bishop on b7 is absolutely not partaking in this game because of this pawn. And it's beautiful that it's not partaking because that bishop can cut through here with some serious danger at times. And the bishop could be also useful as a maybe defensive motive in many situations. So having that bishop cut off completely and this knight cut off, not to mention the rook, is quite nice for white. These pieces are offside and inactive. Yeah, so we can clearly see that white has a clear and direct plan as to what he's doing. There also is a very important principle of attack that if you have 3 or more pieces in the attack, you're usually going to have a successful attack. And we currently do already have 3 pieces directly aiming the counter in the bishop, the knight, and the queen. The rook's coming along as well. So yes, this attack will definitely be nice. I mean, nice to play as white once again. Very easy to play. Chances that black's going to find a way to defend, if there is a way to defend, even if he uses the engine, it's going to be very difficult. So that was not too brave of a sacrifice to make. I think the average person would make a sacrifice like that. Anybody, even not, you don't even have to be super aggressive like me to make that sacrifice. I would make that sacrifice in a heartbeat, but I'm sure that sacrifice makes sense to everybody. Yeah. Okay, so that means h6 is out for now. Let's have a look at g6. G6 looks a little more solid. How would we react to g6? Just activating that rook. Now, also I've seen this motive also in a game. Well, yeah, very basic game.
Wouldn't it just be rook takes e7, queen takes e7, bishop takes f6,
yes.
and then queen h6?
Exactly. That's a beautiful combo. That yes, patterns recognition is very important, and that's why they say it's good to study your tactics and advanced tactics, especially because the more you see, the more you see different patterns and motives, the sharper it will make you. So yes, rook takes e7 is definitely on the cards. And after this, well, how's black gonna handle this? Because we're gonna play rook takes e7, no matter what the weather. We're gonna take rook takes e7. Because the dark squares are exceptionally weak. I remember this exact same setup as happened in an earlier, in a different strategic session or lesson that I have, where it says the pawn cover of the king has been weakened, and of course the dark squares are weak, so we aim to eliminate the dark square bishop. I know what Kubresi likes to make exchange sacrifices like this. So yes, after rook to e1, I think black has serious problems. He can't move the bishop. He can't defend the bishop. Nothing he does is gonna work. Can't move the knight as well. Bishop takes. This is the last option. Let's just make sure we have confirmation that after pawn takes, queen to h4, that is very, very uncomfortable for black. G6 and h6 is both very, very uncomfortable. So yes, I think bishop takes, kind of like the last one we'd opt for when we go in for the exchanges, because we want to save our bishops, we want to keep the bishop pair. But I believe, Jamie, this was your option. Nice option to choose under the circumstances. Not going to necessarily save you, but definitely buy you some time. Definitely buy you some time. So knight captures, and now white does own the bishop pair, and that's what black obviously wanted to avoid, giving up the light square bishop for the knight, giving white the bishop pair, because I mean, even if you pawn down, in some instances the bishop pair can be enough compensation for that, being that pawn down. Okay, so e takes. Okay, just to obviously look at knight takes again. I do believe very, very similar situation here to what we just had a look at, and rook takes will still apply in the situation. If he does capture back, bishop takes, and I think we have carbon copy. This might be a little bit better for black, I suppose, in this instance, as does have the pass pawn, yeah, that can run. But I think white should still hold this comfortably, because now we're using this king as an extra piece. It is less volatile because there's slightly less pieces, and when the king always can stick out his head if it's not so dangerous. So yes, this would have been a less easy situation to play as right, but definitely still has the advantage over here. He does have this overlapping pawn here also that can cause some trouble. And anything that's going to happen here is going to be easily covered by these three guys. So 3 against 3 basically. 3 against 3, and my 3 is stronger than your 3. I might just not get my 3 forked in any way by that knight. So I just have to make sure I use proper technique here. But I do have a plan in the meantime, and if your plan doesn't succeed, these pawns pushing up here, even the G pawn can also assist, and also just give me some breathing space there for my king. So nice in game to play, very interesting. But yes, I do believe white does still have the edge. So yes, if he plays knight takes in that situation, we can go about it the same way. After pawn takes, we again in a similar situation with the pawn on d5. This time again slightly better for black because he doesn't have this bad piece that was hampering a lot of things there, including the rook. So yes, of course, black, the player playing black was Vishy Anand, former world champion as well. So definitely no slouch to these kind of positions. So white continues with his plan, or queen h4. And okay, so here, you know, if we look at h6 and g6 again, we're going to run into the same type of ideas, same motives, same plans. And once again, if you do play this as white, you have the isolated pawn, you can you can use these ideas, very useful. I personally like to have the bishop on b1, aiming from afar when it's not hanging in this case. Well, we don't always have it our own way. Yes, there's a lot of times you gotta act fast. You gotta act very fast in these situations. Didn't have a chance to back up, but he seems to be fine because we. Okay, so yeah, I'm not going to delve too much into h6 and g6 since we know what happens if h6, bishop takes h6, and if g6, we've got the rook e1 idea again. That works. So h5. Let us just take a moment over here and see. Okay, h5. Very interesting way to defend. Very, very interesting way to defend. And I'm quite curious to hear from everybody if we can perhaps figure out what to do, how white continued from here. Okay, I'm open to suggestions. Was white run out of ammunition? Or does white still have some firepower here in the situation? Should he make an improvement to his position, rook e1?
G4 looks quite interesting, yeah.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Brave. Brave. Very brave. But I think the subtlety maybe to improve the position. First is a little more, what can I say, more prophylactic in this situation. Because I mean we can go g4 at our own will here, right? We can go g4. It's not something that needs to happen right now. I do still like the rook takes e7 idea. Possibly in some situations can still work. So g4 does come in a few moves. But I first want to improve my position to the maximum before I make those kind of moves. I think that's important that we focus on improving our position to the maximum before we strike with moves like that. Okay, he's also trying to consolidate matters by moving back. Somewhat defending the e7. And I don't think we can improve anybody anymore at this stage. And that's why we went with g4. So I got a note here that I would also like to read to you guys. So I've been studying this. Just came to mind. I've studied this positional book by Jacob Argod. Very nice if you want to delve into positional playing. Excelling at Positional Chess by Jacob Argod, which is great. It also gives great positional exercises. And just give me a minute. I'm gonna read it to you guys. Keep it solid. Wait for the critical moment. When your position cannot be improved as much as your opponents can, that's when you must strike. So in this position, you cannot improve anymore. Your opponent can improve a lot. So if you cannot improve as much as your opponent can, then you should strike. Very important note that I took from that book. And in there, I highlighted that keep the squeeze on your opponent, because the pressure is good to keep on your opponent, because at any moment he can make an incorrect move, especially after the move like rook e1. And yeah, so knight c6, only logical move, but I mean you could have made any other weird looking move that could have brought him in trouble. And yes, so basically keep it solid, wait for the critical moment. When position cannot be improved as much as your opponent can, keep the squeeze basically on your opponent. That's the note I made for myself in my self-study book, which I call Keep It Simple. So I make all my little notes in my Keep It Simple book, and let's see if that tricky one actually makes a difference in the situation. Okay, so now we to g4. Nice move, very nice move. After g4, queen moves away. Was he able to capture? I think he's going to make life very difficult for himself if he captures. Let's see if he captures. Pawn takes. No, doesn't look great, of course. A mate coming up. So that's not possible. Knight takes. This is also not going to end well with the knight being threatened, as well as the mate. So I don't think that's the way he wants to go. Just backtrack one move. So yes, g4 now. Queen d6. G takes h. And black opting for the exchanges. Okay, so of course there were many other ways this game could have panned out, but we're going to follow the game, how it went, just to see how white managed to convert this game. Of course, white, Kramnik and black is unknown. Resistance from the opponent. Black is definitely on its way. Black is not just going to roll over. So yes, what happened now is white kind of ruined his structure. Base game, gained the pawn, still looking good. Coordination is still amazing. But black says, no, let's go to the end game. I've got an extra pawn over here. I want to go to the end game. I'm feeling the pressure by my king. So he's going for that. Okay, so now after queen over there, Kramnik says, I'm pushing forward and I don't need my queen to attack, because if captures, I join in with my knight and things are still looking very dicey here for black's pieces, and white is just making more and more advances. So knight takes h4. Of course, here this is not so simple. Opens the king. Also, there's some rook takes the idea is also possible. But yeah, mainly this king actually. I think this king might be vulnerable. Because yeah, king might get mated there after we join in with that major piece. Always have to add a major piece in the attack. It's very useful. So black looks for active defenses. Knight to e4, hitting the bishop. White says, let's dance. Grabbing one more. And threatening to capture the rook with check. Black has to oblige and move the rook away. Bishop takes. Knight takes. And simplifications into a watered down endgame with white emerging a pawn up. So yes, the dust has settled, and now yeah, we just obviously this is why all grandmasters will tell you study your endgame, study your endgame, study your endgame. Every grandmaster I come across always mentioned study your endgame, study your endgame. Why must you study your endgame? Well, I believe that when you put two top players against each other, they're going to put up so much resistance that eventually one side might get an advantage, the other side putting up resistance, and eventually the fight will get thrown into a certain endgame. And if you know your endgames, you know which endgames to go to. If you don't know your endgames, you will never be certain which direction to go. So knowing your endgames sort of gives you a good indication of what to do and when to do and how to do it. And in this case, we got Kramnik with the white pieces, and I'm very sure that he knew that this is definitely going to have winning chances here. I can also say that if I have to look at this in game, if we take the rooks, if we take the knights off the board, it's a different case. Because the rooks can be very good, but knight pawn enemies, especially the corner pawns, the knights, the opponent's knight struggles to stop those corner pawns. So let's see. I'm sure you guys are curious to see how this panned out. I'm not going to focus too much on this, as this is not the point of the main session, but I did throw in my opinion of endgames. And yes, this is just a matter of technique, which Kramnik is a master of. All right, so activating the rooks, with the rooks as well, always dangerous checkmating patterns. Two rooks always dangerous. If you feel your king's in danger, rather exchange one off. So white using that to his advantage and managing to pick up another pawn there in that process. As we just rewind a bit, some serious threats here of this knight jumping in and then discovered attacks, or knight jumping in and the rook swinging across. So the king did feel the heat so much that he was forced to give up another pawn. And now gladly we'll go into this rook pawn ending, because we are 2 pawns up and just 2 rooks. So simplification. Now it's just a matter of knowing what to do, and Kramnik of course knew that very well. All right, so quite a quite a very exciting game, lots of calculations. But I hope I made it quite clear the characteristics and the situations that can arise from the having the isolated pawn. Um, and yeah, before we do anything else, I would like to just take a moment to ask any questions. Are there any moments you guys would like to rewind to, or any situations you'd like to discuss? Anything I should repeat? But yeah, I do feel that I've covered most of the aspects of this, and yeah, let's just open up the floor to any questions or any suggestions or any moments you guys would like to speak about.
Craig,
Yes.
I didn't hear when you said that if you can't improve your position anymore, what must you do?
Oh, okay. If you can't improve your position as much as your opponent can, then you must that's the critical moment for you to strike.
You must what?
If you can't improve your position as much as your opponent can,
Yes.
that's the moment. Let me just read it to you again. My note to myself in my game, keep it solid, wait for the critical moment. When your position cannot be improved as much as your opponents can, that's the moment to strike.
Or to attack.
Yes, to strike. But until
Okay.
then, you keep it solid, keep improving, keep improving. But if you see some things are gonna go in your opponent's favor, that's the moment to strike.
Oh, okay.
Does that make
Thanks.
sense to you?
Yes, it does.
I hope that makes sense to you. Okay, good. That's because in the game, you just keep the squeeze on the opponent.
I do have if we can go back to when you played rook to e1 rather than g4.
Yes.
Um, the slight difference is if we played g4 before rook to e1, what would the difference have been?
Good question. Very good question. Let's have a look. So instead of rook e1,
Yeah, if we played
Uh,
g4, because I was also thinking about g4.
okay, so just 1 second. I'm gonna play g4 here. I've added to my variations because that is a very good and a very valid question. Okay, so our idea with g4, of course, is to open the situation. And let's have a look at, does knight takes now? Knight takes? What would do? In fact, let's just see what did black do in the game after rook e1.
He played queen d6, I think it was.
Queen d6.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's good to know what he did. Okay. And now after, sorry, instead of rook e1, play g4. So let's see what happens if he takes here. We were gonna take here, right?
Yeah.
And threaten mate. Oh, okay. Now, what about g6?
You just lose the knight, don't you? You just take the knight.
Just take the knight. So doesn't really matter then. So is there no defense? No defense.
Maybe knight to h6.
Knight to h6. Make it a new variation. Captures. Does look quite threatening still. Because there is still the mate threat. I would, however, possibly still opt for black's option here, queen d6. Now we've got to follow the game as the game went. I'm going to add in everything and leave out knight c6 and rook e1.
So it would be h takes, g takes h.
That takes that. So now we don't have that rook.
Yeah.
And as the
Queen
game,
b4,
queen b4,
h6,
queen takes, knight takes, and then the knight went to e5.
but the knight can't go to e5 in this very. Oh no, it can. The rook captures here.
Okay, so after knight to e5, I think white captured over here.
Yeah, g takes, h takes g.
H takes g, the rook moved away. Whoa, where did the rook go?
I think it went to c8, didn't it?
C8. He could go to e8 as well.
Bishop takes e7,
Captures,
then
captures.
bishop takes e4 because the bishop's hanging as well. Yeah.
Watching
This is
that
now a
knight
completely
anymore.
different game.
Yeah, and I think black has got some charm. Yeah. I think
Especially because the
black
knight can come to
is looking
c4 rather as well. Yeah.
a more active plan. So the difference is now, let's just look at this position where the knight, instead of having the knight here and instead of having the rook here, I think it is a little more dangerous for black having the situation as it is.
Sorry, what?
So I would much much likely have my rook over there and his knight over there
Sorry,
as the
if
game
we
went.
go back to when Queen b4 was played, don't we have the option now of playing either our knight or our rook to d5 instead of trading queens because the knight's not on c6?
Oh yes.
You would,
d4. He means d4.
Oh, d4, yeah, sorry.
So like rook d4 something, or knight d4.
that. Okay, because the knight is not defending there. That is a strong possibility as well, yes. But I suppose it does have knight c4.
b3.
b3 is probably just winning. I don't think he's got enough counterplay. Black does not have enough counterplay.
I would probably even just take the knight if he moves the bishop. So on f6, the
Yeah,
f6 knight if he moves the
on
bishop.
f6 is going to fall. So yeah, maybe black should try some operations on the e file. So if he doesn't control the e file, maybe you should try some operations on the e file. I'm thinking, does this work? Or maybe black should then try some improvement like this.
Still go G takes H5.
G takes H. Maybe try to activate some more pieces. Yeah, it's not easy to say what black would do. But definitely black is gonna
the
look
knight
at
with the bishop.
exchanging some pieces. Yeah, king takes. I think I would be okay with this. Maybe white can push. Black
So
might try
black
to
just
push.
pushes, yeah.
But now there are some tricks for white here. Just be careful. But black can just go. Yeah. Does it check out? Yeah, no, it's definitely gonna go very, very interesting with G4 first. But personally, I would like to have my rook on E1 when things go down. When things go down, I want to have all my pieces ready in those type of situations. Especially my opponent doesn't have a great defense and sort of like my active move that I would be playing is much more useful than his move over there to C6. So yeah, I mean, I enjoy Paul Morphy's play as well, and he lives by the principle that we need to activate all our pieces, get them all in the game. So yeah, just as a guideline, of course, it might be kind of calculation. G4 first. Black is able to hold in both situations. Um, but I'm thinking just a more principled way of, and as a rule, we generally want to improve everything first and then strike. Your opponent doesn't necessarily know you're coming with G4 and might not necessarily play the best defensive move. And if he does play a different move, maybe he played a move like rook e8 in the situation. It could have devastating effects on his position after G4. So maybe he played the move rook over here. We don't know what he's going to do, but in each situation, it will have different types of effects on the game, and best for you to just try and improve to the maximum and then strike. So yes, I hope that makes sense to everybody. Um, in that aspect, I would definitely choose rook e1 for G4. This is not unsound, but rook e1 more principled move. And this is the way I would like. I would play, and just generally, I would advise to play for everybody. All right. Any more questions? I hope I've answered your question.
That's perfect. Thank you.
Anything else? from anybody?
I just want to know what happens if we go knight d4 and then rook e1.
Knight?
First, we play first knight d4 and then we play rook e1 afterwards.
Knight d4.
Yeah.
Over here. In this
Yeah.
situation. Knight here.
Yeah, yes, in this situation, yes.
Okay, interesting. Let's have a look. I was liking the knight here, Jamie, to be honest.
Yeah, doesn't black just
I
play
do
knight
feel that too.
c5 here and look for trades?
Yeah, there's so much things that black can do to try and neutralize white's um white's attack. So you've got to kind of be very accurate when you go for something. I know what you're going for. It does look beautiful. But yeah, the round says knight over here. It does look like it. Yeah, it does promote it. Oh yeah, now you don't have this here, eh? This knight was
Yes.
really well placed over there. And along with the queen and the knight like that, that was always an idea over there. Generally, you know the knight jumping in like that is can be dangerous along with the queen. Even though the knight does like it, 5, a very attacking square for him, but in this case, I think it takes too much energy out of the position, too many moves, and you're also not following the principle of improving your worst place piece, because your knight was you must move that knight from that square. I hope that answers your question, Jeremy.
Wait. Put the knight back on e4. I want to knight on e4 again.
Knight on e4, okay.
So we play d4 and the knight e4, and then we take the bishop.
Yeah.
Then black
Queen
responses.
Queen takes.
I take with the queen, yeah.
So now the problem is we're threatening to trade queens as well.
Well, we can just take the h5 pawn.
I suppose, but then you also have the knight possible jumping back and covering and eating and everything.
Yeah. Oh, and also black has traded his h pawn for d pawn at the end of the day, and the d pawn is more valuable.
Yeah, I don't like the situation anymore, especially after queen g5. So yeah, I think black is making a comeback over here. So yeah, you gotta be accurate, and you Steinitz also says if you have the initiative, you have to attack or risk losing. Gotta be very quick with the attack in that case. So knight e4 was just a little slow there in that situation, Jamie. Especially if you're gonna play very strong players, they're quite resourceful in defending, and they will find the best moves to defend. And you if you do have an advantage, maybe after the opening, it will diminish if you're not 100% accurate with activating and then attacking correctly.
Okay.
All right. No, that's great. Great questions, guys. Great suggestions. And yes, of course, there's many ways the game could have played out, but we don't know in what situation we're going to end up in games of our own. But yes, I do feel that it's best to always evaluate what principle applies to what situation. Is this the critical moment? Is it not? Must I build up? Must I strike now? And yes, of course, most importantly, today's lesson was about the isolated d pawn, and when Kramnik did push the d5, that was the critical moment over there, and his opponent wasn't ready. That's why he was successful in this game as white. So yes, I can definitely continue more and more and more on this. I've also got some nice games that I would have liked to have shown, but perhaps we can save that for a more practical session on that end. I think maybe I would like to be a part of some practical sessions because interacting with everybody is lots of fun. So yes, I think I'm going to at this stage just hand over to Burton. But thanks everybody for joining. It was a lot of fun, and I hope it was informative.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Yeah, thanks, Craig. No, I don't have a lot to say. Yeah, other than no, I've thoroughly enjoyed the session, and once again, very insightful. And yeah, I trust everybody else also enjoyed it. And yeah, I think next week we're gonna have on Thursday we're gonna have Andrew, and I think Craig, you're back in 2 weeks' time. So yeah, I'll see you guys all next week then. Yeah.
Thanks everybody. Have a good evening further.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.